A distribution removes the ability to use the standard administrative command on purpose. The base system is read-only. You cannot install packages onto it the way every other distribution allows. Updates download an entirely new operating system image and swap it onto a second partition on reboot. If the new image fails, the system boots the previous one automatically. The project was built from scratch by a small Italian team with no corporate backing. The founder previously built one of the most popular tools for running proprietary software on open-source desktops. The co-founder created the container integration tool that dozens of other distributions now ship by default. Their first release was torn apart by reviewers. They spent 18 months rewriting everything and came back with a version that one of the most respected technology publications called more radical than anything the enterprise-backed competitors were attempting. The project launched in late 2022 as an experiment built on the most popular upstream base. The first stable version shipped with a package manager that did not work properly, an update system that required a full reboot for any installed software and documentation that barely existed. Technical reviewers described it as a promising idea with disappointing execution. One publication that would later go on to praise the rewritten version headlined their original review with those exact words. The founder heard all of it. The team went quiet for over a year, rewrote the entire stack from scratch, and switched the underlying base from the most popular upstream to the unstable branch of the distribution it was originally derived from. That switch gave the team closer access to unmodified upstream packages without fighting the modifications the original base imposed, including its controversial containerized packaging system, which the project dropped entirely. There was no upgrade path from the first version to the complete rewrite. Users had to reinstall from scratch. The rewritten version arrived in mid-2024 with a fundamentally different architecture. 2 complete root partitions sit on the storage drive managed through logical volume-thin provisioning. Updates download a full operating system image in the background and write it to the inactive partition. On reboot, the system switches to the new image. If anything goes wrong, the previous image boots automatically. This is the same model used by the mobile operating system running on billions of devices worldwide, and by the lightweight laptop platform that treats the browser as the primary interface. On the open-source desktop, this project is the only consumer-facing distribution attempting it. The daily experience works differently from any traditional distribution. Opening a terminal does not place the user on the host system. It opens inside a managed container running a full package ecosystem where the standard package manager functions normally. Applications installed inside that container appear in the desktop launcher and integrate with the graphical environment as if they were installed on the host. A separate tool lets developers create isolated environments based on entirely different distributions, running one project inside a container using one package ecosystem and another inside a container using a competing ecosystem, all on the same machine without conflicts. The read-only base means the project replaced the standard administrative command with a policy-based system for privileged operations. Specific tools handle anything that requires elevated access. For experienced users who instinctively reach for the administrative command, this creates friction that feels deliberate rather than accidental, because it is. The design philosophy treats direct modification of the base system as a problem to prevent rather than a capability to provide. Desktop applications install primarily through the sandboxed format. The Graphical Software Center handles that layer. Independent testing at launch measured idle memory consumption at roughly 1.1 gigabytes, which is lower than many mainstream distributions running the same desktop environment and reflects the minimal base that the read-only architecture enforces. For anything that requires traditional packages, the managed container provides full access. For drivers or system-level packages not included in the official image, a custom image builder lets users create their own variant, with those packages baked in and delivered through the same update mechanism. That path exists, but requires understanding how the image build system works, which is not something the average user switching from a traditional distribution will pick up casually. The controversies track the project's ambition running ahead of its capacity. The first version launched with broken tooling and inadequate documentation. The rewritten version launched with the application compatibility layer not working for most distributions beyond the primary one, a file format widely used for portable applications, broken because a required library was missing from the read-only base, and the mobile application support that had been marketed as a feature quietly removed after a security vulnerability was discovered with no resources available to fix it properly. The team acknowledged the removal honestly in a public discussion thread, which is more transparency than most projects offer, but it remains a visible feature regression. The minimum storage requirement is 50 gigabytes because 2 complete root partitions must coexist on the drive. For anyone with a modern drive, this is irrelevant. For anyone running older hardware or a smaller solid-state drive, it is a hard limit with no workaround. The installer will not proceed without the space available. The project operates through a small company founded by the lead developer. The team likely numbers under 10 core contributors. Every component of the system stack was built by this team rather than inherited from a larger upstream project. That means every bug, every missing feature, and every documentation gap falls on a group of people small enough to fit around a single table. The update history shows consistent activity through 2025 and into early 2026, with fixes for container networking, additions of tools previously missing from the default image, and synchronization with upstream package archives. One publication listed it among 9 distributions that could grow significantly in 2026, specifically citing momentum from the end of support for the previous generation of the dominant proprietary operating system. The project is alive and iterating. Whether a team this small can sustain the volume of custom infrastructure they maintain alongside the expectations of users who discover the project through press coverage is the question that separates admiration from recommendation. The distribution for advanced users who want the most architecturally ambitious approach to immutability available on the open source desktop, where the dual partition update model eliminates the possibility of a broken upgrade leaving the system unbootable, where the separation between a read-only base and containerized application environments matches how they already think about system design, where the absence of the standard administrative command is a feature rather than an obstacle, accepting that the project is maintained by a team small enough to introduce sustainability risk, that the minimum storage requirement excludes older or smaller drives, that mobile application support was removed, that custom image building is the path for anything not in the default image, and that the documentation has historically lagged behind the tooling it describes. For someone who wants to see where immutable desktop computing is heading before the enterprise-backed projects get there, this is the most interesting experiment running. For someone who needs a daily driver that works without learning a fundamentally new set of tools and concepts, the experiment is not yet the product. The ambition is genuine. The architecture is sound, the team is small, and those 3 facts pull in different directions depending on how much patience you have for a project that is building the future on a budget that would not cover a single engineer at the companies it is trying to outthink. Every choice is a trade-off. At least now you know what you're trading.